And we are live. Hey guys, welcome to another Ed's Retro Geek Out interview. Today we have Chris Fawcett, the writer of Rad Plastic. It's the book you've been seeing all over everybody's Instagram page. Everybody's been getting it in. It's the book about all the unproduced toys, about all the produced prototype TMNT toys, everything like that. It took Chris about 3 years to make this, doing trips around to like 60 different collectors, people that sculpted the actual toys that we're so into. And yeah, I think you did like 130 collections that you reached out to and have used to complete this book, right?
Well,
Chris,
it
how are you
was
doing today?
good. I'm good. How are you? Thanks
Ah,
for
it's
having me on, and I'm looking forward to our chat today. Been looking forward to it all week.
awesome.
Yeah. So,
um,
so I talked to about 100, 120, 130 people. Spoke to them on the phone. But some of them had some images or things they would send me, but most of the images and stuff I got during my visits, with maybe about half that many that I actually ended up visiting, because a lot of people had a lot of great stories but didn't really have anything visually for the book. So I'd learned a lot of great info, and maybe they connect me with some other people and things like that. But yeah, the bulk of it came from the 40, 50 people I visited, and I would say even probably the vast majority of the book came from maybe less than a dozen different people. So there were a
yeah,
few that really had quite a
but
bit
you
of
got
material.
some extra stories to kind of confirm that it's actually true.
Yeah,
So it's well researched.
it's kind of funny, like especially the the first section of the book where it's talking about sort of pre-launching, where they were getting the license and working it up. There were stories in there, and I would talk to different people, and I'd get a slightly different take on it. And it's funny that it's like in the end of this, as a researcher, you find out that you end up actually knowing more about what happened and what went on at the company than anybody that was actually there, because they've got their one piece of their story. They don't know
Yeah.
what was going on in the office next door or across town or on the other coast, and you're getting all these stories and putting them all together, and you end up actually kind of being the expert on the place even though you weren't there. And there were several, like in that first chapter especially, where the stories were conflicting, and I had, like, somebody would tell me this happened first and then that, and then the other person's like, no, 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 that's not how it happened. This went first, then that, then that. And I'm like, well, what do I do? How do I figure this out? And just the more people I talked to, I tried to piece it together as best I could and put it in the proper order. And I also sort of just left a few things ambiguous in that story up front when I wasn't entirely sure of the details. But it's kind of funny that it's been 30 years, right, since those things, and people's
Yeah, I
memories
mean, it's
fade. And
it's 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 about time somebody finally started doing it, gathering all these stories, because like some of the sculptors that have worked on the line, they're reaching 70 and up. So I
yeah.
mean, we need to get these stories down now and pop them in a book.
Yeah, and
And it's
there were people that passed away too that that
yeah,
I couldn't talk to, and sometimes I got a hold of their family, and sometimes there were some stories there. But yeah, there's definitely some people that are already gone, which is sad. But fortunately, most of the people that worked on this line are still in their like 50s, 60s. So they're still generally fairly healthy, and most of the people I wanted to get a hold of, I was able to find. So
that's amazing. And yeah, I got your book in. It was FedExed to me, and it was here quickly, man. It was like 4 days, and finally I had the book. I think any TMNT collector, if you don't want the book yet, it's just because you don't know you want it, because it's 400 pages just filled with prototypes. Every year that the classic line of TMNT toys got made, there's prototypes of every subline in here. I think there's maybe two that didn't get like a little feature, but
yeah,
it's
there's a
so
couple.
complete. It's so freaking complete. I couldn't believe it when I finally got it, and it's heavy. It's good quality. Um, so I was like baffled when it got to me, and we had been talking because every time I do like a toy history, I reach out to you like, hey, I want to put something TMNT in there. Maybe you have some more info. And
Yeah,
lately you were like, yeah, but I want to keep it for the book because when it's coming out,
yeah.
but there's so many stories in here. I think it's quite amazing of how this all came together, honestly. Um, And yeah, I, what the book is not, it's not like a book where you see every toy that got made.
Right. Yeah,
This
that's
is the
not
story
really what I
about
was going
how
for.
every toy got made.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's definitely not your encyclopedia book. So like for your viewers and listeners out there, like, there is a book out there somebody put out. I forget his name, Dollarop or something like that. Is this
yeah,
guy's last
yeah, the
name?
guy from
Uh,
Denmark. Yeah,
yeah, he put out a book but like that. Every picture of every figure and accessories and like sort of a guide or encyclopedia. And that it's a great book. I have it myself. I bought a copy, but yeah, my book is more of an art book is what I would call it. It's about the, pop culture art behind the toys because these guys were amazing artists. Sculptors were amazing sculptors. The painters that painted the packaging were amazing painters, and designers that did the designs of the characters, were just really inventive. And even engineers who designed things, like there's an interesting section there on the bubble bomber and how the guy that invented the bubble bomber came up with that idea. And he was
yeah.
like an
So I mean,
engineer.
I'm just gonna
So
pop this over here. It's not just the prototype. It's the wax sculpt. It's the sketches
the
that came with
sketches.
each one of these, and like the painted hard copies, which you would obviously always see this on the packaging. Like, why is there like silver colors on here and
Right.
it's never on the finished product?
Yeah,
So
it's the kind of the crazy thing that like you'll get this book and read through it and then you'll realize like what these things are. And the funny thing is that everybody who collects Ninja Turtle toys has been seeing these prototypes for since they started getting them as a kid, because they're on the back of the package, they're on the sides of the box. If there was a catalog or something, it could be that in the catalog pictures that they were the prototypes. So you've been seeing these all along, but maybe only this big, right? Well, now you've got some nice big pictures of them, and some of these I've been able to even match up to things like catalog photography and back of the packaging and go, oh, that's the same one that was used here in this photography. So it's kind of interesting to see that, we kind of assume maybe as kids or even as adult collectors that all those photos are just the toys, but they're really not. They're
yeah,
handmade, hand painted,
sometimes
uh,
not even working prototypes, but
very
just
often not
yeah,
working. Yeah, that
yeah.
that are just there for the photography, and as long as it had enough for the photography, that's all they needed to do.
Yeah, and you
So
also did like a whole chapter on photography as well, and like the way packaging is like portrayed. I'm not, I
yeah,
can't find the right word, but
laid out. I would say laid
laid
out.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, I go through all the steps of the process. So you'll learn about, how the designs work, like the people that put pencil on paper to make designs, and then how sculptors work, and how all the steps through that process, all the way up to like production toys, and then how vehicles and play sets are a little different, and how the engineers worked on those, and then how the packaging designers did their job, and even a little bit on the marketing side, and even a little bit on like interesting production things that Playmates did with the toys, of how they got them out the stores in unique and different ways. So yeah, I go through all that, so you really get a really good feel and understanding of what everybody, all these artists and designers and engineers went through to bring these toys to the store shelves and then ultimately into your home as a kid.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's so often that when you have a toy line, um, a second wave gets created for Turtles, which was like a really big toy line. Multiple sublines were created, often with like extra characters, and depending on how well the first time it would sell, they would continue it. The thing I'm thinking about is like the giant mutants, like
Mm-hmm.
what are they called again? The bee, killer bee,
Killer Bee, yeah.
and
Needle
the
Nose. Needle
needle
Nose.
nose. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
those
those
two.
two were,
'Cause,
were only 1 year, and then they said nope, they didn't sell very well.
yeah,
So,
yeah. The
but
Mega
yeah, they
Mutants.
the Mega Mutants, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. So
they were
it's
gonna
an
make.
example of like, even when your toy line is doing well, a certain giant, bigger toy at a different price point won't do as well. But those sculptors, those designers, they're still working on it for the following year if it
Right.
ends up being like a success. So there's so much stuff that gets lost that we never hear about or never even see because it never got to like a toy fair catalog.
Right.
But that's the stuff you were able to go out and find. So
Yeah. So I mean, the whole process to make a toy from like concept to store shelves is about a year long process. It was back then. It's maybe a little bit shorter today because with 3D things like 3D sculpting and computer aided packaging design. Some steps were a little bit compressed, but it's still pushing a year to get a product out like that. And so, you know, if as your example with the Mega Mutants, they launched those, let's say, in, I forget what year that was. Was that 89? Let's just say it was 89,
89
right?
or
80,
90, something like
yeah,
that.
maybe 90. Let's say they launched it that year, right? And it comes out, usually they launch them around September, October, so they're ready for Christmas, right? So they launch them then. At that point in time, they're working on the designs for Toy Fair, which comes up in February. So you're thinking these are just hitting the shelves in September, October, and you've got to have your next year's line ready for February, have prototypes. You have to design it, have sculpting done, have prototypes all in that little window from October to like January. You have to do all this work. Then you take them to Toy Fair and show them off. And it's at Toy Fair where they really decide, do we want to go forward with this particular toy or not? So by the time it goes from September, October up to February, you will have seen 4 or 5 months of how that particular subline is doing in the sales. The buyers, of course, from Toys R Us back then or Kmart or wherever would also know what their sales were doing. So you come to Toy Fair and you may already kind of have an inkling this probably isn't going to fly because these aren't selling very well. But you show them because you did all this work. And then, you know, like with the Mega Mutants, you know, they're going to do, actually the Mega Mutants probably never even made it to Toy Fair. They probably canceled those earlier than that, than even taking them there. But, you know, so things get canceled because you start to see the reality of what the line was doing just sort of with the timing of the thing. So
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So we already have loads of people in the live chat today. I want to thank also everybody who's watching this at a later date, at a later time. Yeah, we're gonna ask so many questions about turtle prototypes. This is like I feel like I'm in Disneyland. We got Chris Yude. Super excited for this. My buddy Empire Toys hopes we get Pog Talk. There's no Pogs in this book, but they did have TMNT Pogs back in the day. Narc is in the house. Tutune. Yeah. Hey, buddy. Oh, Turtle Tracker. He has the book. He loves it.
Oh, thank you very much.
We got Carlos. Hey, buddy. We got somebody from Spain. Julio Esteban Perez is in the house. Have you already shipped something out to Spain?
I'm pretty sure I've shipped to Spain. I mean, my international orders are probably about maybe a tenth or even less of the U.S. ones, just because the shipping is unfortunately so high. But yeah, I've shipped them. I mean, I know I've shipped to like Spain, France, Israel, you know, Belgium, Australia,
you're going all
Mexico,
over the world.
Canada. Yeah, you know, I would guess maybe I've shipped 50, 60 books outside the United States, but yeah, it's been a decent amount. So, but I hope to have some international distribution later in this year, so people might be able to get it in their country a little bit cheaper than.
We're telling me about that somewhere roughly around September time.
Yeah, it's not really
European distribution.
Yeah, it's not sure yet. End of Q3, early Q4 probably will be sort of the time frame that hopefully that will happen. But no promises yet. But I'm working on it. So.
We got Jody, but he has a different live chat. But thanks for the donation, buddy. Warriors of Kerrang action. Have you heard about that toy line, Chris?
No.
Matt is looking forward to this
one. Matt's one of my co-conspirators here. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
He worked on the book?
Awesome. He worked on the book. He helped a lot. In fact, if you go to the back here, yeah. My other guys on my crew, Matt George, Gary Borbidge, Stephen Ward. Also, my wife helped a lot. But there's those guys right there. Let me see if I can get it. So
awesome.
Yeah. There's Matt driving right here. So this is like my favorite.
He's in lots of pictures.
That's my favorite picture of the whole book right there. That's my wife in the middle and Stephen there on the left, I guess it would be. And Gary's in the back sort of making the funny face. So that's us in one of our trips going out to see all these people. So yeah, props to those 4 guys and my wife as well for all the help and effort they put into making this happen too. So they definitely deserve a lot of credit.
We got Team
and of course my designer Chance Sanderson.
Yeah,
massive shout out to him.
Knocked it out of the park.
Out of the park. Just like
everybody's already checking out the cabinet in the back that is just filled with loads of protos, right?
Yeah, back there.
Yeah.
There's a few in here too.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
I didn't turn that light on. I meant to turn all the lights on just to
We got Rich
see a little better.
Hawkins. We got. Wait, where did I leave off? Carlos, I think he has it as well. Tarf, he got the book in the Netherlands. It was expensive, but it was fast. Yeah, I know. That's like one of the things, like right before we start, I want to tell you, like, the book is, what is it, $60?
Yeah, $60
Yeah.
is the
And
price.
for USA, it's like, what is it, like $15 shipping?
For US, it's like $8.50 because
$8.50.
United States has this
Yeah.
thing called media mail that
Okay.
allows you to ship books ridiculously cheap.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
it's only inside the country. So going outside the country, it ends up being anywhere.
Yeah, what
Canada,
I wanted to get to, I think I paid like $70 to get it shipped. But
Right.
then again, like, this is a book I would gladly give 100 euros for. So it's, yeah, I mean, I think you're selling it a bit too low, but I mean, everybody should be able to get this book.
Yeah.
But that's the reality now, because there's just nothing better to get it shipped properly, because it came in like a really nice box.
Yeah.
No damage on the book whatsoever. So thank you for packaging
Yeah.
it so well.
I try to package the international ones really, really well. So, because I know I really can't do anything about sending another one if it's damaged. So I like try to make sure they're really done, packaged up well. So, yeah, Canada and Mexico isn't too bad. I think it's only about $40, $45 to ship there. But yeah, anywhere outside North America is getting up into $60, $70, $80, unfortunately. And people ask, like, why is that? I get books shipped all the time and it's like $24. But the thing about shipping is it's like there's like an international limit of 4 pounds, and everything under 4 pounds, yeah, it's like that. But as soon as you go over 4 pounds, it just goes up astronomically quickly. And this book is over 5 pounds, just the book. With packaging, it's over
heavy.
6 pounds. So
it's
yeah.
friggin' heavy.
I didn't want to compromise on my vision for the size and heft of the book, unfortunately, just to save on shipping costs. So, but like I said, I am working on getting hopefully some European and elsewhere distribution later this year.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, like Tarf is saying, like the Next Mutation card art, there's like, even up to like Next Mutation, there's so much stuff I haven't seen, I didn't even know existed in the book. So I think it cuts out at like 98. That's where it cuts out. But
98, there's a thing in there, like one page, 1999 with a question mark, because I'm like, I found something that I couldn't get any info on, but just where it's at in the process and what this was used to make this particular prototype, it seems to me like it was one of those things that was done after the September launch in 98, prepping for Toy Fair 99, and then got canned. So I think that's a 1999. But yeah, as far as the line goes, it goes through 98. And I put the cutoff there. A lot of people don't count the Next Mutation as part of the vintage, but I kind of do, just because there was a 4-year break from 99 to 2004 where no turtles were made for anything. And the Next Mutation overlapped with that original line.
Which seems weird that there's like nothing happening though.
Yeah. So that seems like a good break in my mind, that I wanted to include the Next Mutation. And there were some interesting things in that line too. Some unproduced figures that were really cool. Yeah. So I didn't want to leave them out.
Then Corey, he shared it in a couple groups. I think he also got the book, as he's saying it's such a great one. Mahir, he got the book 2 days ago. Awesome. Be great to see if artists create some of these lost toys. Yeah, I mean, there's some creating like based on like the pictures, so that's always cool to see. Is it going to get sold through Amazon? Andy Dixon is asking. Any?
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
I can't
might be working with that.
I can't answer that for sure right now, but I can say it probably won't be till the fall.
Yeah.
If it happens. So.
Did you self-publish this, or was it part of something else?
I did. I self-published it. So it was entirely funded and worked on by me and my crew and the designer, and we basically did everything, did all the printing, did all the designing, the shipping. I'm like literally packing 100 to 150 boxes a week right now just to get them out. And I'm taking usually about 3 loads to the post office every single week to ship them. So yeah, it's basically just, right now, just me doing everything that's left. But the crew helped a lot during the research part of it. But after it got into the writing, so it's all self-published. So hopefully
Yeah,
people like it. I tried to make it seem like it was high enough quality that you would never think it was self-published. I was
yeah,
going for something
it's
that would feel like it was really done by a professional,
yeah,
you
it's
know,
quality,
publishing
that's for
company.
sure.
Yeah.
Toka Oroku, he asks what stories you have from the toy creators at Mirage, but I don't think Mirage Studios really created any.
They did
Um,
some, yeah. So
yeah, they did.
as far as now they didn't
And thanks for the
create
donation, buddy.
the toys, but Mirage was definitely involved in design of them. So you'll see in the book there are sketches from the guys at Mirage, where they were coming up with character ideas. Now the sculpting studios also had artists, 2D artists that were also working on concept ideas, and sometimes those guys would take a single sketch from Mirage and work it a bit and adjust it some and get it into a place they could sculpt something. Yeah, Mirage didn't do any sculpting of any toys or any like packaging design, but they definitely did character design because back then they were trying to create this synergy between Playmates and the cartoon company
Oh yeah,
and Mirage. So the guys from Playmates really wanted to try and get these characters into the comics and into the
the
cartoon.
cartoons, yeah, to
So
get them sold. I mean,
right,
marketing wise, it would, but they're
right.
like definitely in the early days, there was like a lot of stuff going like that.
Yeah, there was.
The
There was a
first
lot of
season, like
divergence. Yeah.
they didn't know what the toy makers were doing. The cartoonists
Yeah.
didn't know. Yeah,
Right.
but
So that's
that's what
why
makes it so cool, I think.
yeah. But that's why Mirage was involved a lot. They would make a character up for the cartoon and then send that sketch to Playmates and then the marketing people at Playmates would go, would this make a toy or not? Or the opposite would happen. The guys at Mirage would come up with a design they thought was a cool toy and they'd send it to Playmates and then Playmates would go to the cartoon and go, can you guys fit this character into the cartoon? So that was happening a lot. There was synergy between the marketing firm at Playmates, the outside contract sculpting firms, Mirage, and the cartoon production company. They were all working hand in hand to try and just push this line forward.
Okay. Then we have Corey asking if there's any additional info on the Star Wars Doctor Who sketches and Indiana Jones sketches.
Well, I do have one tidbit that I actually just discovered a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
So I was looking, I have some preliminary sales projection sheets, right? Like business documents, right?
yeah.
For they were sales projections for 1994, I think, or 95. So this is basically the sales guys and marketing guys going, here's what we think we're going to make next year, and here's what we think we're going to sell. And on that sheet was listed Indiana Jones as a 4-figure assortment. And that was the
Okay.
first I had heard about that because the Indiana Jones sketch in here is the only one I've ever seen. Nobody remembered it at all. Nobody knew anything about it. But then I found that sheet a couple weeks ago. I'm like, damn, they were going to make 4 Indiana Jones figures. And they must have got farther along than I thought because to make it onto a sales sheet like that, I don't think anything ever went to sculpting. Don't get me wrong. I don't think there's a sculpt out there, but I think they were pretty serious about it. The one story I did hear was that the Lucasfilm royalties were a bit more than they were willing to pay, and that's part of the reason why they didn't do
Yeah.
the Star Wars and Indiana Jones. But it was a shock. Like, what would the other 4 have been? Like, of course, April is Marion, makes a whole lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
And like,
Definitely.
what would the other ones have been? A Sala figure, maybe a Belloc, like. I mean, Indy and Marion are really like the 2 big ones, unless they went into like further movies and did like a short round or a Donovan maybe from Last Crusade or Indy's dad. Maybe a Splinter
Yeah.
as Indy's dad would be a cool one. So
I
who
mean,
knows what they are?
they'd probably figure it out, but how?
Yeah, the sheet just said Indiana Jones, and it had 4 line. I didn't say what it was. It didn't say like Splinter, dad or anything like that. It just said Indiana
Yeah.
Jones and had 4 listings for 4 figures. So I don't know what they would have been.
Okay. So they're asking, is the book sold only online? I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Right now,
head over to.
unless you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, if so, hit me up and we'll meet at a coffee shop and I'll sell you one. But other than that, yeah, it's available at radplastic.com.
I guess like eventually when toy stores start opening up again, they might like get a couple copies in to sell from the store. But
there's a couple places that have asked me to ship them like 6 copies. There's a place in Canada, Toy Store in Canada that bought 6 copies and they're putting them in their store. But only like 2 stores I've heard that have asked me for that because
I
I'm not
don't think
really
like
set up for
with
that kind of
COVID, it's
distribution.
easy to do now,
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Empire Toys asks, and he's going to be surprised. Do you just focus on TMNT collecting? It might surprise you that Chris, he actually just fell into creating this book because you're a big. What were you like really into back
Star
in the
Wars.
day? And still,
Star
yeah,
Wars
you're
is
a
my
big.
childhood toy. Yeah. I've
Yeah,
been a Star Wars collector since like 1995. So it's been 25 years I've been a Star Wars collector. I've been a Ninja Turtles collector about 3.5. So, well, I take that back. I did collect them for maybe 6 months or so back at around 2000, 2001, just because I thought, you know what, this is a line that's really popular. I should just get some of these cards and sort of sock them away for the future. And I did that for a while, and then I just got, I don't know, I quit and sold them off, but I should have kept going. That was a really good idea. I wish I hadn't given up on that.
but do you like solely collect prototypes now, or do you also have like the regular toys?
I would say 95% is the prototypes, whether it's Star Wars. I've got some Darkwing Duck as well, and a few other random smattering of things. But yeah, it's 90%, 95% prototype stuff. So, but I've got some carded figures of Ninja Turtles and Star Wars. I've got a few loose things here and there. So, but pretty much all vintage. I have very, very little of anything that's post 2000.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it's also really interesting that you are also a toy designer. So you come from the field. So it's 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 not like too far fetched that you're drawn to, hey, I want to see the prototypes
Yeah,
because I want to know how they
exactly.
did it. And
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
that's definitely a part of it. I mean, I'm sort of as a collector, I'm drawn to the rare and interesting things. I've always kind of liked the idea of having a unique collection, that like I and nothing wrong with collecting things that are common. I'm not saying that at all, but like I just like people come to my collection and see it. I want them to see something they've never seen before. When I go see people's collections, the things I gravitate to are the things I've never seen before. And for me, that's even like the NECA stuff because I don't collect it and I don't ever see it at Target. So when I go over to my buddy's house here in Charlotte that has it, I'm like, oh, the NECAs are really cool. I like to look at them because it's something I haven't seen. So
yeah,
that's kind of one of my things I like a lot about collecting is showing people things they haven't seen and seeing things that I haven't seen so that everybody's collection is unique and different. That's really kind of a cool thing to me. So, but then, yeah. And also of course the connection to being a toy engineer sort of drew me to that as well.
So are you a toy engineer or a toy designer? Is there like a difference in that?
Well, that word design can be used in a couple different ways. That is a different meaning. If you're talking about design in the sense of creating the aesthetics and the like the play features and things like that, that's one kind of design. But then when you're talking about engineering, you're talking about like designing the mechanisms that are
Yeah,
inside,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
Like this, if you have a toy that its head pops and spins like head spin and bebop or something, the engineering design would be all the mechanisms that make that happen inside
Oh yeah.
and how the tools are made and how the pieces get attached to each other. So it's both design, but it's sort of different sides of the same coin. So yeah, so I was in the engineering side. I'm designing mechanisms and making sure that the molds and tools will work and things like that. Not so much like the aesthetics of the figure.
So what toy lines did you work on, and do you have like something laying around
I
you can show
do.
off? Or
I
yeah,
actually got it here because you gave me a little preview. You're going to ask me that question, so I pulled it out.
yeah, awesome.
So I did. I haven't done toys for probably 15 years or so, but my early part of my career was entirely that. My father was the first engineering vice president at the Little Tykes company they ever had. He is famous for designing the Cozy Coupe. And if you don't know what that is, that's the little red and yellow car that kids get in and sort of Flintstone feet,
Yeah,
like, that car. Yeah, my dad designed that. That's probably his biggest claim to fame in life. So along with a lot of the other Little Tykes things, you've probably seen the little picnic tables for kids and the
yeah,
little red and yellow slide and the turtle sandbox. He designed all that stuff. So our family has been in toys forever. And my brother still does some toy design every now and again. But so most of my work was on like that, yeah, like preschool toys, things like that, or ride-on toys or playground equipment. But I did do in my career one action figure line, and that was a line by Fisher Price called the Rescue Heroes, it was a series about real life jobs that are heroes. So like a fireman, a policeman, right? So I got this here. This is a little dude.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
So this is I've actually got the wrong pack on him. This is the construction. No, actually this is the right pack. So I got the construction worker guy here. You can see he's got this. This is obviously some kind of hand built. This is made out of just pieces of styrene plastic glued together. Even kind of works still. And I got another pack too. I've got the fireman pack, which is this guy. Still works.
Oh, yeah.
This thing's like, I don't know how old this is, 20 years old now probably. So my job was to take these. I didn't do anything on the figure, but I did work on all these backpacks, and I did
backpacks.
Yeah, I did all the engineering design and everything for these two backpacks. So I worked out, what the gearing was and all the springs that are inside, and making sure the thing could be manufactured and how it would be attached and where the screws go and all that. So this was in the early days of three-dimensional CAD. So this was all done on all this design was done on a computer, and I got drawings from the designers showing, this wasn't just a blank thing. And the real toy, there's all kinds of pipes and mechanical stuff going on in here. So I had to add all that detail as well, according to the design drawings. So yeah, that's Rescue Heroes Year 1. This is the only prototype I've ever seen of those. There's probably some out there, but yeah. So that's where I come from. So that's one thing that made it made me want to do this book in the way I did it, rather than just having it be, an encyclopedia of toys.
I think
because of my knowledge, I can explain this to people.
A way to, because you already are doing it, you kind of like, especially because it's about the sculpting, about getting the prototypes working, you kind of know a bit the way that they're thinking, these designers. So it's a bit easier for you, I guess, to unravel the stories that you're encountering.
Exactly.
Searching for it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I'll see a sculpt and you'll see a pencil line down the side of it. And like, if you didn't know what you were looking at, you'd be like, why is there literally a pencil line down the side? But I know that's where the parting line of the tool is. And they're making sure that the mold can open, and there's no, they're called undercuts, where it'll get stuck in the mold so that the part can't come out. And I'm looking at it and going, oh, I know what that is, and I can explain it all. So yeah, it made me definitely a good person to write this book, because of all the knowledge I have, from my career.
Matt, he also asks, is there a book kind of like this but for Star Wars?
Yeah, Matt's plugging his own book, kind of. So I'll give a plug out for them. So plug out to TKF Publishing. So this is our second book. The first book, which Matt was heavily involved with as well, is Engineering an Empire.
I have that one.
Yeah, so, that's all about, it's kind of like a biography book about the toy designers.
It's like the people that worked over at Kenner whilst they were creating the Star Wars line, right?
Yeah. So
it's so cool, because you see stories from people that came from Mattel and how they checked out the competition and, oh, we have to do this over here and stuff. So that's also a really cool book.
Yeah, it's a pretty good book too. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that one as well. It's a bit different than mine. It's more about the people. Mine's more about the process, people, and their book is more about the people behind it, like the actual, telling how did they get into the toy business and where did they go to college, and what was their favorite thing they worked on, and tell me a story about what that was like to work on it. So where mine is, I have a few things there with the people, but it's mostly about the toys themselves.
Okay, and we got Daniel. Hey, buddy, in the chat. TJ Drake would love to see that cabinet collection. I think it's all in the book, right? Or
there's a lot of it in the book.
People could potentially join one of the Facebook groups you're in, and there's some life walking around in there too. I thought I saw that.
Well, the one Facebook group that's good for this stuff is TMNT Prototype Collectors. So go.
That's the one you run, right?
I run that one, and there's a lot of people beyond me as well posting their stuff. A guy from Singapore by the name of Derek Ho posted some amazing pieces that he's had for years and years that he finally pulled out of storage this week, and everybody's like, "Oh my god!" He had the sculpt for the two sewer hero bad guys, both sculpts, the Bebop and the Rocksteady, and he posted those on the page this week. So, there's something that's not in my book that you can see on that page, and you can see a bunch of stuff from the book in that page as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, head over there if you want to see what's in the cabinet or get the book.
Yeah, this
Um,
a lot of stuff that's in there is in the book. There's probably very few things in that cabinet that aren't in the book. Almost everything in it's in the book. So that'd be the best place to see the best photos of it.
in Fidelius, he's gonna have to get it. That's what he's been saying. Bones, thanks for the donation, buddy. Gonna try keeping it up. Daniel, yeah, we kind of spoke about it, but like at the very first 2 minutes, you worked 3 years on this book, right?
A little over 3 years, yeah. I started September 2017, and it officially launched in January of this year. So a little over 3 years, 3 years and a few months. It's about 2 years of research, heavy research, and about a year of writing and additional research, writing and designing and additional research. So
I'm so behind on the chat, but this is a good question actually. Is there any way to explain the color variations that some of the action figures got, and not just talking about the plastic that the weapons came in, because I know that's
right.
like sometimes it's like European or sometimes it's like the second edition, but they're talking about like the Bonafrock or the orange and pink wrestler Mikey.
Let me just grab one. So this is in the book, but here is a completely alternate color Merdude, right? So if you're talking about production colors, those would often just change because for whatever reason it went to a different factory and they couldn't get the exact right dye, so they changed it. But if we're talking about these sort of early
I think that
designs,
he was asking about like why factory wise it sometimes was different.
Yeah, but, that's just process in the factories, being slightly different. So,
but this is interesting too.
Yeah. So as far as like variants so let me talk about that a little bit. Then I'll go back to this. Variants in like production toys. I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding that those were something intentional. Now, something like the white jersey, the red jersey basketball guy, obviously
that was like a later release.
Right.
So they changed it, like the storage shells that came with the black. What is it called? Black belts.
Right. But most of those color variants are just part of the process, and they're sort of, I wouldn't want to call them accidents, but they're certainly not intentional either. It's not like there's a designer going, oh man, this blue is just a little bit off, let's change it 5%. That's not happening. What's happening is that they're at one factory and that factory is making these, and then they go, oh, well, man, that's really popular. Let's start making that same thing at this other factory. And that factory has a different supplier to get different dyes and different plastics, and they put the thing together and they make it, and it comes out a little different. Or for the accessories, potentially, it could be like one factory is making accessories for all their figures that are blue, orange, and green, and this factory over here is making red and yellow, and then they want to move a figure over here, and they're like, man, if you want to make that one the same color accessories, we're going to have to get an all new dye, and that's going to cost you more. And they're like, you know what? Just make it in one of the colors you already have. So a lot of
there's
times
also like a Toka that's like lighter compared to like the regular one.
Right. Yeah. That's generally going to be just factory differences, production differences, them saving money potentially. They could have a situation where, they get a new supplier that their dyes are cheaper, but that blue is a little bit different, but they save 5 cents a figure by going to it. And they're like, so what if the color changes? No kid's gonna care. So those things are rarely intentional. The minor little differences are rarely intentional. But getting back to this.
Yeah.
So, why would there be a figure like this? It's obviously completely different color scheme. And a lot of times, most of the sketches they got from Mirage or from whoever was doing designs were very rarely were they colored. They were almost always black and white. So what they would do is they would do up the sculpt and then make this, which is a hard copy, which you can tell because it's basically pinned together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then oftentimes they'd ask the people that did the painting on these to like go do 3 or 4 different ones. We want one that's kind of like in a sea green, and make me one in blue, and make me one, whatever. And they would paint up 3 or 4 different ones, and then one of those would be chosen to go into production, and the other ones would be just leftovers like this. And oftentimes,
I think I saw it in your book, but like King Lionheart, he had like a couple variations as well.
Yeah, I've got one that looks mostly like production, but also has some additional green paint on it. And there's another one out there that is That is, shoot, hold on. Sorry. I had an alarm starting to go off in my ear. I don't know if you could hear it or not. I have to get
we
rid
couldn't
of that.
hear it.
Okay.
No,
I'm like,
no problem.
I have that going off for the next 20 minutes. So, but yeah, there's a Lionheart that has more of a brown fur and a red tunic as well. That's an alternate paint design that they didn't use. So there's quite a few out there like that. There's a really neat Triceraton that's like pastel colors almost, that's in the book. There's some others. All of them are a little different. Most of the paint jobs, even if it ended up going into production that way, often it was simplified for production versus what the hard copy was painted up as, because the hard copy would have a lot, like 10 colors on it. The production figure has 5. So they would often simplify them.
So Ryan, I think Nickelodeon owns the rights to.
Yes, Nickelodeon owns the rights. Yeah, Nickelodeon owns the rights, and Playmates has basically some of the toy rights. Obviously, Super 7 and NECA have something. I don't know if they're sub-licensed out of Playmates or if they have some kind of license with Nickelodeon. But yeah, Nickelodeon is the ultimate top level owner. Actually, I think isn't Nickelodeon owned by Viacom? I think that may be even the next level up.
Okay,
but it's Nickelodeon that has it.
I'm not up to date on that stuff. Oh yeah. This is something I've been researching as well, like the recall of the black belt boxer mic. Is there anything about it in the book?
I don't know. Actually, this is the first I've heard about it. There was a recall on it?
Well, we're guessing it because like the black belt boxer one, so it's like part of the ninja action. I think he throws away his nunchucks and it could like get in your eye potentially. Because I know on like all of the little flyers, I don't think any were made in Europe, and they're not even in the European extra folders that came with the Turtles. So I think it's something that, after it got released in the USA, they like cut it from the line.
I hadn't even heard that story, so I don't know. I obviously don't know anything about why that was done. It's the first I've heard that even happened. So yeah, you guys are teaching me something today.
Yeah, but he's hard to find. Then I went over to Texas last year, and I was like, "Oh, here he is!" So finally got him. They did plan a TMNT in Indiana Jones line. I think here we go. Daniel, he had a cool question for you. Any TMNT toys that you would want to redesign or engineer to make them better? Is there like anything that you've encountered or that you've been, frustrated about in the line?
I've never even thought about that question. That's an interesting question. I would have loved to have worked on some of them. I think some of the things were pretty ingenious that they did. The one interesting one is the bubble bomber, and that was one of my favorite people I talked to, because he was more an engineering type like me, while probably 90% of the people I talked to were more like designers and sculptors and things. And he got that idea for the toy. He said he had, as a kid, this guy's older than me, so when as a kid he had toy trains a lot, and he said they had these trains that blew smoke out the smokestack. Right. And then he said he was like in Vegas or something, or at a show in California. I forget where exactly, maybe the Vegas thing I'm making up. But he saw a magician that was doing this trick of, he would took on a cigarette and he would blow smoke into a smoke bubble. And that gave the designer the idea. It's like, I could turn that into a toy, and I could make a plane that he put the Lionel trains from his childhood together with what this musician was doing, and thinking I could make that train thing go into a soap bubble and drop it from a plane, and it would be like, so cool for a kid, and it'd drop down and burst open on the ground, and the smoke would come out. So that's where he got the idea for that. And so it's things like, it's not so much that there's something I would redesign, but it's like a toy like that would have been fascinating for me to work on. It would have been something that I would have loved to have help design and figure out how to make all those things work and the mechanisms work. That would have been really fun. It's a really interesting concept and idea, and probably would have been fairly challenging to create the engineering behind it. So
I think so too. It's weird that it didn't get used more, like in our toy lines, or like somebody took that idea and went further with it.
The other one
Unless
would be
it didn't, but unless they did, but I haven't seen any other toys using that gimmick.
yeah. The other one I thought was cool was the soda can racer, which was never
Oh
produced.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, that's such a great idea, but like as a toy, it really doesn't make sense because like it's going to be such a mess. It's like a crazy mess. No parent is going to want to buy that. Kids would love it, but no parent would want to buy that because, like, even if you told them to do it outside, they're eventually going to get that thing, drop that soda can in, and run it across the carpet. Like so,
Yeah.
but that would have been a fun one to work on. I thought it was a really cool idea, but yeah, that one was never made.
Justin says thanks for setting up the interview. Chris, how many unproduced TMNT figures are there? That's a tough question to answer. Nobody knows, I guess.
Well, I can run through it probably. So I will say, let's limit it to things that were actually sculpted. Because if you go to things that were just designs on paper, there are literally hundreds, and maybe 200. But as far as what is actually sculpted, and the nice thing about the book is it's got at the beginning of each chapter, it's got like a checklist of everything that was released that year.
Yeah.
So, and in those checklists, if something was unproduced, I mark it as such. So there was really nothing that was unproduced up until 1990. When in 1990 you got the Mega Mutant Ant and the Spider. So there was two. If somebody wants to keep a count. In 1991, there is the Giant April that did not come out.
And they were going to make a Giant April. What?
Yeah, Giant April. In 92, we have the unreleased Wild West. I think it was supposed to be Shredder, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah,
which
it looks
like
kind of like a Shredder with like the.
1993 has the Universal Monster April as a werewolf. And if we're going into play sets, we have the Muta Party Wagon and the Movie 3 Castle playset that year as well. And then 94, we've got quite a few. We've got the Spellcaster Splinter, the Mike Knight, the Savage War Leonardo and Warcat 2-Pat, the Raphael, and as ones that were actually 3D sculpted. There's a few in this section too that were just 2D sketches, but I'll ignore those for now. In 95, we got 4 mutant militaries. We've got 4 Team Ninjas. We've also got a Metal Mutant Rocksteady, a Metal Mutant Bebop, and a Metal Mutant Horse. We've got Warrior Razor and Warrior Bebop. So I don't know how many we're up to now, probably 20, 30. I'm sure somebody on the chat is keeping count. In 1996, you've got, the Mutaforce Shredder and Rocksteady never went to sculpting, so I won't count those. Those were only on paper. 97, there's a bunch of 97 that never made it past the sketch phase, so we'll ignore those. And then you've got 1998, you've got 5 Shadow Ninja, and you've got the Dr. Queeves.
Yeah.
So for ones that actually went to sculpting, that's, unless there's something out there that is unknown and I haven't seen, which is possible, those were mainly the unproduced ones that at least went to the 3D stage.
Yeah.
So you go into sketches and there's all hundreds and hundreds of them. Yeah.
So you mean to say it needs to at least be a wax sculpt or a clay kind of like modification thing?
Well, I was just saying, if we're going to look at unproduced, where do you draw the line? Do you count everything that was sketched, or do you just say, you know what, let's just draw the line, and if it went to 3D, we'll consider it unproduced. If it was not ever got farther than that, maybe it was we just call it a design sketch that was never made. I guess they're both technically unproduced, but there's a pretty big demarcation there in my mind if it went to 3D sculpting or not.
I can get that. Like, to me, it's like it's ready to go. Almost, it's like 80% done. Like the toy. That's for me an unproduced one.
Yeah, a sketch could have been literally like the guy at Playmates looked at it and goes, "No, we're not doing that one." I mean, that was the end of it, right? That's all the fun we got.
Yeah. Or still cool to see, but it's not something in a couple months that could be on a shelf, you know?
Right, exactly. It didn't get that far. So I don't know how many that was, 20, 30 there. Yeah. So there's a bunch of unproduced sketches in the book.
He's been keeping count. That's about 30. So yeah. I think there's got to be at least 50 in total. There's stuff stuck in somebody's attic that we're never going to see.
Who knows?
Unfortunately, but
who knows? Could be. But I don't know. I got to all the major people that really did stuff, and I would be a little shocked at this point in time if a completely unknown sculpt surfaced, but
Really?
it could. Yeah, I would be shocked. If there are any out there, I wouldn't say it's another 20. Maybe there's a couple that I missed somehow that somebody worked on, but I've talked to so many people and so many sculptors and so many of the marketing guys that I would be a little surprised if there's something that went to 3D that I don't know about at this point in time. So now design sketches, yeah, I easily could see there might be hundreds out there that I don't know about.
I think this is another good question. Empire Toys, he asks, how difficult is it to have your prototypes confirmed as a real one? Now, for post 2000, it's a lot more difficult because they just started creating prototypes for the sake of selling prototypes.
Yeah, even some of the companies that make the toys sell the prototypes or having a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive that's in a prototype, quote unquote. Like, is that really a prototype? Not really in my mind. But
I think like early 90s, you can still, like, if you get stuff that kind of looks like it should be easy to kind of like get it confirmed. There's definitely some giveaways to it as well, I guess.
Yeah, there's two things really that are super important. The lesser important one is just having the experts confirm things for you. Now, an expert, even like myself with a lot of history of this, can still be fooled. I've been fooled in Star Wars with a couple prototypes. I think largely when I'm fooled by them, it's because I want to believe it's true because it's something I really want, and I'm like, I kind of put
this
my
is a rocket firing Boba Fett, I'm telling you.
Like, I put I put the doubt aside to convince myself, but I'm a little more objective when it's somebody else asking me about it. So the one time I was fooled, it was a piece I really, really wanted, and I think I sort of just didn't look close because I didn't want to know. Something in my subconscious just didn't want to question it, and it was from what was at the time a thought to be reliable source. So I didn't question it. But so the first thing would be just trust the experts. I mean, the people that have seen a lot of these, like me or Matt George, have held hundreds of these things in our hands, first shots, hard copies, paint masters and things like that. You get a feel for it. It's almost a sixth sense. It's almost like I can hold it, I can look at it, I go, I can't exactly tell you why this isn't right, but this isn't right. Sometimes I can articulate it. Like, it's very clear that it's super rough and crazy and it's not done right or the pin's wrong or whatever. And then the opposite is true also. Sometimes you just look at something, you go, yeah, I can't tell you 100% because, I don't know the provenance of the piece, but that looks spot on to me. But the bigger question is the provenance. It's really about tracing it back to the source. Where did it come from? Who did it come through? Are the people that have had it and moved through trusted sources for this stuff? Are they people that have had those contacts and bought things from the original owners, the original sculptors, the marketing guys, whatever? And so tracing that provenance is the real key thing. Because if you can do that and you say, oh, this piece came from here, and it works back to, Matt George, and Matt George bought it from this sculptor in Los Angeles. Like, if you can trace that back, you can have high confidence. And then also, obviously, it looks right to the experts as well. So it's really those two things, just expertise and provenance.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Oh yeah. Luke, how am I supposed to say that? Griori? Will playsets be in the book? Yeah, there's unproduced like sketches and even like a huge ass unproduced playset. Like,
yeah, that
prototype wise.
Yeah.
To me, this question is kind of like a two-parter to you. There's not a lot of vehicles in here. That's because I guess most vehicles were originated from like Japan or something like that, and they just throw on smudges and pizzas on the sculpts.
It's not that. It's that almost all the sculptings. So the figures and playsets go through a completely different process. A playset or a vehicle is almost all the engineer. It's like 90% an engineer doing the work. The designer does a sketch and the engineer will go and like take it from there. The engineer is almost like the sculptor of things that look mechanical, like a car or something, right? Whereas sculpting is very organic. Those are done by sculptors that carve it out of wax. So the thing about Playmates is it was basically a subsidiary company of a Hong Kong company, and they had engineers at their factories. And so I believe that most of the engineering on the playsets and vehicles was done in Asia by by engineers in Hong Kong, and not done here. But
That
most
worked
of
for
this
Playmates.
that
Yeah.
worked for Playmates.
Okay.
But most of the sculpting for figures, things that are not mechanical, things that are organic, was done here in the United States. So that's why in the course of the research, we found tons of stuff on figures and not nearly as much on vehicles and playsets. The stuff
But
on
there's
vehicles
like
and
3 different play sets discussed in there that weren't produced. So those
Yeah.
are in the book, Luke. And they look really cool. I was blown away when I saw this.
yeah, the really great one is the
man.
movie 3 playset. And
Yeah,
a
like
lot
the
of
sewer, the station thing in there.
yeah, the
Because I
subway
saw that in
station.
like a Toy Fair catalog. They were gonna do like the train cabinet thing that
Right,
Splinter is in, and then
right.
all of a sudden, hey, it's in the freaking
It's in
playset.
the playset, right.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot
That's
of the playset
amazing.
and vehicle stuff I have are like file photography from Hong Kong. So it was
Okay.
from one of the guys that was back and forth between the United States and Hong Kong and was taking pictures of the prototypes they were building over there to show the marketing people over here, right? So a lot of those things that are in there are pretty much just 25-year-old photographs that he still had that I was able to scan. So a lot of those play sets and stuff that you see in the book aren't, I don't believe they exist anymore. They were probably trash long ago, but fortunately we have the photography of them.
Okay. Do you think there were any toys that were not made because they were going to be too expensive?
Oh yeah, that movie 3 playset is the best example. I mean,
But
that
then
thing
again,
was
like
crazy.
later
It was
down the
crazy.
line in the 2000s, they put out like a playset that was huge, right?
I think that movie 3 one is even bigger than the more modern
Yeah.
playsets. But yeah,
Okay.
I do. But other than that, I can't really. Maybe that mutagen rifle might have been. I don't know this for a fact. Just my engineering gut instinct looks at that thing and goes, "That would have been an expensive toy." So it looks awesome though that it was in the Toy Fair catalog. So they apparently got quite far along.
Yeah.
That'd be an amazing prototype to find. But that one could exist. That one wouldn't surprise me if it was here in the United States because once it got the packaging photography, the photography was done here. So
Yeah.
even if they had built that over there, they would have shipped it to the U.S. to make that photography. But I've never found it yet. So, but maybe it's out there.
Yeah, that would have been cool. This has come up a couple times. What's like the most surprising thing that you learned during finding it out, or was like the most what blew you away from like figuring out all this stuff?
I would say probably the most surprising moments, probably the single most sort of surprising piece of info I found was probably that bison shredder. Because by the
Yeah,
time I got to find that one, I was probably 2 years into the research, and I thought I had found everything that was uncovered. I found the April werewolf very early, like one of the first things I ever found. So that was surprising. Anytime you find something that was never released, right, and was never in a catalog, that's surprising. So the Team Ninja stuff, I went to that source once, and we found the sculpt. And I'm like, I didn't know what it was. I'm like, this is like, I hadn't, I wasn't that familiar with the Toy Fair catalogs. So I'm like, this is Ninja Turtles clearly. And I'm like, but I got to figure out what it is. I don't know what it is. And then I went home and started looking through the catalogs, and I found the Team Ninja page, which just has artist renderings of the figures. So nobody knew that was 3D sculpted. Everybody thought it was just a rendering. And so it was surprising to find that. And then we went back to that same person, like, I don't know, months later, and then found 3 painted hard copies of the figure. So I'm like, that was
what?
super surprising. Like, oh my gosh, not only did they sculpt it, but here's 3 paint masters. But then the bison one really shocked me because I had never heard any stories about, the Team Ninja was in the catalog, right? Like
Yeah,
the April, I found it early, and it kind of makes sense that April also was in a Michael Dooney sketch. So it was a little bit like it was out there, like that it at least was a sketch. So it wasn't totally shocking to find it in a 3D sculpt. But that bison, man, I'd never seen any sketches for that. I'd seen Wild West sketches for the other characters. And that we opened that box up, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it was labeled like bison turtle on the side. I'm like, bison
yeah.
turtle, what's that? And open that up and go, this is Wild West, clearly. That was probably the most shocking sort of discovery of something.
Okay. That's
Were you trying to
awesome.
find the page?
Yeah,
It's in
but
it's in 1994. I got really good at knowing what years things were working on this for so long. Yeah, it's
I actually like today. I just got like a Channel 6 news van in box. Like
mhm.
this guy came over and he delivered it in person. So I was just flipping
Nice.
through that.
I thought it was 94. Is it 93?
I don't know. Whenever I flip open the book, I always see Shredder Bison, and now
And
it's
now
just
you
not
can't find it.
happening. Yeah. But it's such a fun book. Like you flip through it and you see stuff like this. Like I knew they had a design for it. I didn't know they had a
Right.
prototype.
Yeah,
Like
that
the
was
giant cyber samurai. That's also like an insane one. So damn.
yeah, that was so yeah. So, anytime you find something like that that is unknown, that's always really fun. Like the Mutaforce Rocksteady was another one. There's no figure, but there's a engineering drawing for it. So things like that are always fun. Probably the most fun and most interesting things to find. I can't find the Bison page either.
It's weird.
Oh wait,
Maybe it
here we'll do this.
disappeared overnight. But you have it.
No, actually, this is something I have not shown anywhere really yet, but I'll show it here.
Oh,
This isn't what's in the book. This
no
is the
way.
clay of the bison figure. So this is earlier than the bison sculpt, and this is in clay. It doesn't have nearly the details as the final figure. So this isn't in the book, but I've not really shown this to anybody yet because I was keeping this figure super secret because I wanted it to be a surprise in the book. So I
Okay,
hadn't shown
yeah.
any pictures or anything. But yeah, here's the clay that I do have. I do not have the wax sculpt that's in the book, but so there he is.
That looks amazing. I think
Yeah, way
that's
better.
Varner Studios that has it, right?
Yeah, the Varner Studio sculpted this one. Yes,
Yeah,
put him back in here.
awesome. Uh, yeah, one of the questions I had written down was how is toy hunting for prototypes different than like does it have the same haggling work or tactics as like regular toy hunting, or is it at a completely different level?
Well, it's the harder part about it is finding the people. Like
Yeah,
that's something that's a skill and very difficult, and I've learned over decades. And I'm fortunate to have connections in the toy industry, so obviously that is a huge help. But after that, once you get in front of people, it's the same as always. It's like some people don't want to sell things, and that's fine. And like I never would ever push anybody, or I would just ask, and if they said no, fine. If they said yes, I'd be like, awesome. So and then it's the same process. It's like, well, most people ask how much you give me for it. You always want the other guy to put the price out. So you make an offer, and they say yes. They say no. You haggle a bit, and if you get it, you get it. So yeah, it's pretty much the same as what you'd see at like a flea market or a convention or something like that. Haggling for prices. So it's pretty similar.
is it like most people you went to, like do they know that this stuff is worth this much, or is it
Um,
to them just like, oh, that's something I made 20 years ago, who cares?
well, most of them, if they kept something, they have an idea that it. They have an idea that it's maybe not that it's of a value, but they have an idea that it's important. Let me put it that way, right? It's like they
Yeah,
knew like this was a massive line, and some of them kept things because it was their work, right? Like,
I
oh,
mean,
I
it's their
sculpted
art.
this.
It's like you
It's
said,
their
this is
art,
an art book. And
right?
you're showing the
It's
art.
their
Yeah.
art, and some people kept things because they're like, oh, I just think this is amazing. And it's pop culture, and it will be, so you know, you just go in and I try to be fair with everybody, when I'm buying things and make good offers. But like anybody, you try to buy things in bulk to get a little cheaper and things like that. But it's pretty much the same as what you'd find at haggling with anybody anywhere about anything, right? It's not much different. Other than
Um.
maybe the dollar signs are a little bit higher because the stuff is
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
expensive. But yeah, other than that,
But
it's pretty much the same
they're
thing.
more exclusive.
Yeah.
That like what would be the ultimate TMNT prototype grail? Honestly, you think to you
Um,
personally, and what would be the ultimate prototype grail? Like just like um
to the
to
general
anyone
community.
to general community. Yeah.
So I would have to say that and I won't be super specific on like which variant of this, but I would have to say the pitch turtle. Whether
Yeah,
it's, I mean, the pitch turtle sculpt would maybe be the top echelon of anything. I'm kind of more partial personally to like a painted hard copy rather than the sculpt. I can see why people would like both. The painted hard copy to me is better aesthetically than like the sculpt would be, but the sculpt is like the original. So it's got to be the pitch turtle as far as toys go.
yeah. That's
You
what I
know,
was thinking. Like, I would go for the pitch turtle, and
maybe the Rocksteady pitch piece too would be up way up there.
yeah, because that didn't get produced either. That
Right.
like the way that, yeah.
And there are far less of those out there that I know about than the pitch turtles. Pitch turtles, I know maybe 10 or so out there in the world. The Rocksteadies, I think I only know of like 2 or 3 that are even out there. There may be more in a box. Somebody might have some in a box somewhere. Who knows, right? 10 could show up tomorrow. But yeah. But the pitch turtle, I mean, it's the turtle. You got to go with that even over the Rocksteady, right?
Yeah,
So,
I was thinking that too.
yeah.
I was leaning more towards the unpainted one though. I don't know why, just because I think it's like you said, it's the original. It's what the painted one came from, and so that's like where it started.
Yeah, this I don't
yeah.
know that am not aware that the original sculpt for that still exists. So like I said, could be out there. I've talked to the sculptor who sculpted it. I've talked to the people at the studio, and people have hard copies of it, but I've never seen anybody claim or show any evidence that that sculpt still exists. So I'm guessing it's probably gone. So as if you're looking at grails, it's like grail, like Holy Grail is something that like is not known to exist. So if you're really talking like what's the Holy Grail of Ninja Turtles, I guess it would have to be the sculpt because it's not even known to even be out there, and it would be top tier thing. So
yeah,
I would say that.
Yeah. Is it also the Grail to you personally then?
I would say, well, I've like, I don't know if you can see if I lean over. Which way is it? Right here. Right here.
Yeah.
There's a painted hard copy of the pitch turtle right there. So
Oh my God.
that's probably yeah, that's probably my personal sort of. It's maybe not my most favorite piece of my collection, but it's certainly the one that I think has the most importance, sort of historically and for collecting as a whole. It's definitely the top tier centerpiece
most
of the
prolific to represent the turtles.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the one that's in the book. The one I have here is the one that's like on the beginning of the second section. There's a nice picture of it in the book. So
yeah, it looks really nice. Oh man, that's amazing. You just have it out there.
Oh, it's in like a case.
I see. Yeah.
It's in like I have it in a little case. So the lights are the bow staff is a reproduction just made.
Is this the one that's also in the book?
Yeah, this one's in the book.
Yeah, because you can actually see like in the book that it's not painted very like within the lines or anything.
Yeah.
Because over here, like it looks really good actually.
Yeah.
It's freaking cool.
So that's probably, if the sculpt is gone and doesn't exist, it isn't in the world anymore, I would say a painted hard is the grail piece.
Damn, I didn't know you had like a pitch turtle. That's whoa. Okay.
Yeah, that was an exciting day when I got that. It was
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Just an ask, like the punk frogs, do you know if they had planned to create more or if it just was like the one and the Bona frog that they created?
The punk frog, are you talking about the rock and roller Punk and Don or
no, the punk frogs?
The punk frogs, which ones are those?
Like Napoleon Bonafrog and Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan, those two. I haven't seen any evidence. Well, no matter which way the question goes, where you're talking about the Punk or Don or those guys, Bonafrog, I haven't seen any evidence of any other frog-like characters beyond those two. So yeah, I haven't seen any other frogs.
Okay, there we go. BS Mac asks, what is the dimensions of the book? Height, weight?
It's
Yep.
11 inches by 11 inches and about 1.25 inches thick. And so it'll fit on your normal bookshelf with 11 and a half, 8.5 by 11 books, but it'll stick out farther. It's about 5 pounds, a little over 5 pounds. It's
a coffee table book.
It's a coffee table book. Yeah, truly. 400
That's
pages
awesome.
total. So, yeah. Yeah, I definitely wanted to be something that a Ninja Turtle collector could put on their coffee table and pick it up while they're watching TV or whatever, and flip through 10 pages and put it down and pick it up again tomorrow. And I wanted it to be that kind of book that kind of, you can always just dive in, pick a page and enjoy it for 15 minutes and then set it aside, and the next day you can read it for an hour if you want, and you can go back and revisit things easily. So that was kind of the goal.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ed Keaton. And I think Monkey Jeebus, he met a guy who sculpted the original turtles at SDC San Diego Comic-Con, had them in a case. I think that's Farner, right?
That's Farner,
they set up at a Comic-Con each year with some of the turtles. So yeah, that's Farner Studios. They have like a new Instagram where they pop most of them on now. Yeah. You have Instagram as well, Chris, right?
Yeah, I got an Instagram, Chris.Fawcett. Yeah, and there were two major studios that did most of the sculpting. Varner was one of the two. And then there were also some other studios that did one or two here or there. There were freelance guys that either worked directly for Playmates, or Varner or the other company would subcontract out to like freelance guys as well. So, but the vast majority went through those two studios. And Varner did most of the turtle type stuff, and the other studio did most of the bad guys and more random animal type characters. So that's just they let one studio get real good at the turtles, and the other studio did everything else. It wasn't a hard rule, but generally speaking, that's how it went.
Okay, that's yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird because I guess like for something like a Cyber Samurai, they would do like one studio would do all of them, like the bad guys and.
Generally speaking, not entirely. Like for Cyber, Varner did the good guys for that, and the other studio did the Rocksteady and Bebop. So they would
often the engineering part in there,
Yeah, they would often.
Okay, so they did split it. Okay,
they would often split it. Yeah. So, but like the Wild West line, for example, Varner did all of those because those were all turtles, and so their studio did all four.
Awesome. And we got some more questions about the book, like how much is the cost to Canada?
I'd have to get your address. I'd have to get the address because it's different depending on where in Canada. Like West Coast Canada is more expensive than East Coast Canada because I'm on East Coast US. But generally speaking, Canada has been around like $40 to $45 for the shipping, so it ends up being about $100 to $105 or so. That's ballpark. Maybe a couple dollars plus or minus, but there's a link on the website to email me for international shipping quotes if you want to do it. And I really wish I could ship them into the other countries cheaper, but I basically just charge the post office price plus some extra shipping packaging supplies I need, plus the PayPal fees to cover the shipping. So I'm pretty much charging what I get charged for the most part. So it's just expensive.
And then Waylon is asking if we can get a signed copy of the book.
I offered signed copies for all the pre-orders I did back in April through June, but I've stopped signing them now just because I can barely keep up with packing them and shipping them. But if we're ever at a convention together, or if you're ever coming through Charlotte, North Carolina and want to pop by, I'd be happy to sign them if we can meet up face to face. But at this point in time, I can't really I don't have the time right now to manage signed books and unsigned books and separate shipping and the time it takes to sign them all as well. Unfortunately, I wish I could, but it's like I said, I'm literally like packing books like 24/7 on the weekends. It feels like just to get them shipped.
Gage Poor asks, how long does it take to ship? I ordered about a week ago. Well, it depends where you are, obviously, but
yeah. So generally in the United States, it's been this for the calendar week. This week, like Sunday to Saturday, I will ship those between Wednesday to Saturday next week. So I'll usually make 3 or 4 trips to the post office. So all the books ordered in this calendar week will be shipped the following calendar week. And then it's depending on how far away you are from me. In the mail in the US, it's generally somewhere between 4 and 12 days to get it. So on the outside, if you ordered like at the beginning of the week and I don't ship till the end of the following week, and then it's another week and a half. It could be 3.5 weeks. If you order it at the end of the week and I ship it right away and you're close, it might be as few as 2 weeks. So somewhere in that range, 2 to 3 weeks is what I've been telling people.
Okay. But, yeah, buddy, it probably shipped and it's coming your way and you're going to love it. So
yeah, if you ordered it last calendar week, it has already shipped. If you ordered it this calendar week, i.e. from last Sunday through today, it won't ship till next week.
Okay. How much to ship the book to the UK? I don't think UK was an option with Brexit going on.
Yeah,
or as that.
Unfortunately, I can't right now ship to the UK due to the changes in the laws there with VAT taxes and tariffs and stuff. I can't even ship in there. So if you want it in the UK, the best thing I can tell you is find somebody in the US to buy it and then ship it to you as a gift. That'd be the way to go. Yeah. Sorry, I need some water here.
No problem. I think like we should do like one more question, and then we're like out of time. Honestly,
this has been fun. I've liked this like format because it's like it's been a lot of Q&A more than like straight up interview.
I've had like a couple questions written down, but people in the chat started like asking the same question. So I was like, I just wanted to keep like on track. The last thing I actually wanted to talk to you about, but wasn't in the Q&A or anything, is the whole retro CQ. He got it as well. Can't wait to get it. He ordered it as well. But to me, like, so Friedman, who from Search Licensing, he went over with the license for for Turtles by Mirage Studios, and he started shopping it around to Playmates. He also went to Mattel, and you also found the Mattel prototypes for Turtles.
Yeah,
is there anything more you can tell about that?
So the person that had that is the only person I found anything out about it from, and he was a freelance sculptor. Well, he worked at Mattel in like 87, 88 or whenever that was being shopped around. He worked at Mattel. He left Mattel at some point in the super late 80s or the early 90s, and then he went freelance, and he ended up sculpting several turtles for the Playmates line. So he sculpted, I believe, all of the Universal Monster turtles he sculpted. I'm pretty sure he sculpted maybe a couple of the Kung Fu line as well. But when I contacted him, he told me the story that, I was at Mattel when they came in and tried to pitch this license. And he said, I thought it was a fantastic idea. So much so that even though they said they probably weren't going to take it, I wanted to try and convince them. So I took it on my own to go and sculpt up a turtle toy that I could hopefully use to convince the higher ups at Mattel to take this line. So he said he did that, and they still didn't take it. He had 3 pieces of it left. I don't know what happened to the rest of it. A lot of these sculptors will reuse their wax once they've sculpted something and made a hard copy, because the wax is, it costs money. And once they've got the hard copy, do they really need it? So either the other pieces got lost or he reused the wax, but he had the head and 2 legs of the original one that he sculpted at Mattel to try and pitch the turtle to them and get them to buy the license. So it didn't work out.
Do you know of any other toy companies that were doing the same thing?
I think they pitched it to everybody. Now, did anybody else sculpt anything? I have no idea. I kind of doubt it. I was surprised that Mattel did. And the only reason it happened at Mattel is because the one sculptor guy liked it so much. It wasn't that it was an official project and Mattel, somebody said, hey, go sculpt this. We want to sort of tinker with it. No, it was just one guy trying to convince his boss that we should do this. So that's the only reason it even exists. But it's amazing that it even existed to this day. And it's really rough. You'll see a picture in the book. It's certainly not a final finished sculpt.
But it does look a lot like the Playmates ones, actually.
Yeah, I thought it looked a little bit more like the original comic books than some of the Playmates ones turned up to. Yeah, okay. So that was an interesting, crazy story. Those were fun things to find and discover, as you're talking to people and you hear the stories about things like that. It's like, would I have ever found that out? If that guy had not done sculpting work for Tortures later, I probably would have never known that story because I never would have called him and contacted him. So...
Okay, awesome. Well, that was it for this live stream. I want to thank you so much for freeing up all the time you had today. And guys, go check out this book if you want to get it. The website has been popping all over the screen constantly during the last hour. Thank you guys so much for watching in the live chat, thanks so much for watching this at a later time. And Chris, thank you so much for always answering all my questions, man.
Oh yeah,
it's amazing. It's so much fun talking to you finally. So yeah, thank you so much.
I've had a good time. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to plug?
No, just you know, you can connect with me if you want. If you got any other questions that were in the chat that I didn't answer, I'm happy to talk to people or answer things or discuss stuff. So find me on Facebook. You can go to that TMNT Prototype Collectors group. I'm all over there, so that's an easy way to find me. You can find me on Instagram at chris.fawcett.com or chris.fawcett. And I'm posting right now a series of like close-up photos of a lot of these prototypes, just because I think it's cool, interesting photography to close like these. One of them, the mummy, I did by accident, almost looked like he's taking a selfie of himself.
Yeah, that was cool.
I didn't do that on purpose. I looked at it, I'm like, it looks like he's doing a selfie. So yeah, so you can find me there, and radplastic.com. You can send me an email off that website too. So I love to hear the feedback or anything, you know, you guys have questions on, just let me know.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks guys. This is going to be it for this live stream. I'm working on a new video, a new toy history, and it's going to be a completely new topic. So hopefully I'll get that done next week. But until then, have a great day, afternoon or evening, wherever you are, guys. See you later. Bye.
Bye, everybody.